Guys, welcome to the show. Today we have Dakota DiSanto on the show with us. She is the founder of the Social Media Manager and also a podcast host that I had the pleasure of being a guest on. So, of course, I got to return the favor. Dakota, how you doing?
I'm doing so good. It's so good to see you again.
Same here, same here. Why don't you just tell our guests a little bit about yourself and your journey into social?
Yeah, so I started social media kind of by accident. I was working for the Kardashians back in 2013, and I was their retail director for their stores Dash. So I was overseeing their LA, Miami, and New York locations. And I helped open their second Miami location, and I opened up their Southampton pop-up store in New York. So I was kind of like given some pretty big tasks as a retail director, but the stores surprisingly weren't doing all that well. And so I was like, oh God, I have these huge, goals that I have to reach. And basically I needed to do some marketing. Which is kind of weird, right? Because the Kardashians are so famous and people are like, why would you need to do marketing? They're the Kardashians. But yeah, it's kind of surprising how bad the stores were doing. So I actually had taken the largest Instagram account at the time between the three stores because they were all just kind of managing their own Instagram accounts. It was so messy. And I decided to close the other ones down and just manage this one Instagram account. And I don't know, it just like kind of clicked. It started working. We started taking some great photos and posting about the stores, and the stores started to, make their stretch goals, and largely due to our online presence, which at the time, 2013, it's like brands weren't totally on social yet. So it was a lot of fun. I had no idea what I was doing, of course, but had some years since then to figure it out. And yeah, so I worked for a few fashion brands after that, and then hated corporate life. And I was like, all right, it's time to start my own thing. So last year I started the Social Media Manager.
That's awesome. And then you flip that into a podcast as well, similar to, what I started here. But tell me a little bit about starting that podcast and starting your own company. I think you and I both see a lot of people on Twitter talk about being a freelancer or starting your own thing because of, either bad experiences being on the agency or brand side. So what has that experience been for you, being kind of like your own boss and entrepreneur?
It's totally terrifying. And every day I'm like, oh man, is this worth it? Should I go back to corporate life? But honestly, it's like, I love holding myself accountable, and I'm going to be as successful as I can and do what I love to do and only answer to myself. And that's honestly why I did this. And ultimately with the podcast, I was talking to a lot of other social media managers, and mostly like young up and coming social media managers who are like, I want to do this. And so I was like, maybe I should start a podcast that talks mostly to social media managers. So we can have that conversation of like what it's actually like and expectations, and sort of turning around the story of what we do and how much we're worth, and, all of these different topics. And so far it's been awesome. I've been meeting a lot of really cool people who are mostly just getting started and just want some guidance. And like, that's my jam. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's similar experience here with, the Slack community that I have. And I believe you're a part of that as well. And just, from seeing what's been going on within our industry the past couple of years, especially, with the pandemic and all the pressures that came with, needing to always be on for our brands because there was nothing else really, going on in the world as far as, outside of your home and being able to go out and, shoot content or do events and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think, it's been a great kind of like safe space, between Slack communities and podcasts and Twitter and LinkedIn for the social community. So it's awesome to hear, how you kind of jumped into that. But let's so the show is called Talk That Talk, right? And for us, it's we really want to dive into hot topics, things that are going on, and just have real authentic conversations, about the industry. So using the word authentic, what does that mean for brands on social? I know that's something that you really want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, that word is so interesting now because everyone uses it. Brands that I work with, all of the owners of the companies are like, okay, we need to be more authentic. And it's like, I don't know if they know exactly what that means. But I mean, yeah, we need to put content out there that is, real and that people can relate to. And that brings some sort of value because, especially with brands on social, no one wants to follow brands if, they're just going to sell a product or if they're just pushing some, something down our throats. It's just getting old. And I think everyone is tired of social media largely because of that. So to be authentic, I think really as a brand, especially, it just means like putting out some content that people can relate to and that they're not just being sold to all the time.
Absolutely. And it's funny enough, our last guest, DG from Coca-Cola HBC, that was one of his major points. It's social media is turning into this big cold selling type of advertising, wall. And the brands that are really realizing what social is made for, which are true connections and conversations and really bringing value, they're doing it right. And there's a lot of brands that are doing it absolutely wrong. And I couldn't agree more. The term authentic is used a lot. And I kind of feel like it's almost used as an excuse to blanket over what they're doing wrong, right? Like all of a sudden, hey, let's be real. Let's be authentic. Let's actually try to make believe we care about societal issues and, jump on these conversations that we never jumped on before. Why do you feel people and typically, maybe sometimes the larger brands, they're late to the game on being authentic?
I mean, I think it's largely due to upper management and not giving the reins to social media managers or marketing managers. When you're talking about jumping on bandwagons, like I think about Pride Month and when brands all of a sudden are like, oh yeah, we should care about this. Let's change our logo to be the rainbow flag. And it's like, people are just, they're too smart for that. And I wonder, the people that are in the companies making these decisions, I really wonder if, it's their marketing team, their social team making that decision, or if it's like the CEO that's like, oh, we should care about this for like a month and then we'll look really good. And anyway, it's pretty disappointing.
I think we kind of know the answer. It could be twofold, right? I think as social media professionals, we want to represent our brands the best way, right? And we understand that, hey, there should be some conversations that we jump in on. And, we typically have to sit down with leadership and convince them and try to make this something that's evergreen and ongoing for the brand. But I think that's where the massive fall off happens, right? Is we take the initiative as social professionals, we bring it to the table. Everyone is excited about it. And then next thing you know, if there's a major sale or promotion that needs to be focused on, or numbers are low or whatever the case is, they easily forget about that one conversation you had last month. And, I think you and I both know when that happens, the brand looks worse than not saying anything at all or not jumping into that conversation, which I think, a lot of us social pros, when, these things start to pop up, we always say, hey, if you're not really authentically involved in those conversations, just stay out of it.
Yeah. I talked about this recently in regard to what's happening in Ukraine. And a lot of brands are like, should we say something? Should we not? And it kind of is a hard decision sometimes, I think, for brands to take a stance. And my whole thing was, if you are going to, then, make a statement And then also do something that has nothing to do with your brand about it, like maybe encouraging your following to donate to a certain cause that you can partner with. And doing things like that, I think, make a lot more sense than just like putting the Ukraine flag up on social, for one post. So, yeah, I think it's just you take everything that you can and all the information that you can, and then make a decision if it's actually part of your brand to talk about it.
Got it. So on the flip side of that, I know there's something that you tweeted recently about it's so cringy when brands try to be cool and they send you an email subject title, "Hey love." Please expand on that, because I've seen it and I could not agree more.
Okay, so I was talking about, I can't even remember who sent the email or what brand sent the email, but it started with, "Hey love." I think it was my like makeup brand. Just wanted to check in and see if you're liking your product. And it's like, okay, we're talking about authenticity. And then we're talking about like going too far. Like, I don't know who you are. I feel really weird that you just called me love. And I want like a better connection than that. Like when we're talking about authenticity, we're talking like you can talk to me like a person, but like don't talk to me like I'm been friends with you for 15 years, because that's just also weird. So that's what I tweeted about, because it's so cringy. Like I opened this email and I'm like, why is this fake person talking to me like this? It's just so weird. It's a weird marketing tactic, I think.
I understand that. And I think there's that balance of wanting to humanize your brand, but then also not crossing that line where it's like you said, we don't know each other. So to use certain terms and, terms of endearment towards another person that, you're just connected to because they're a customer, it does come off a little much like a stretch. And I think brands want to try to find that middle ground. But at the same time, it's like if they're too robotic, if they're too brandy, then there's also a negative, result of that too. So how would you suggest to the brands that are listening and the teams that are listening, how do you balance that? How do you balance not being cringy, but not being super robotic?
Yeah, I think it can be difficult sometimes, and you do have to test what works for your audience. But I really think like a simple "Hey Dakota" would have gone along like a lot further than "Hey love." But yeah, I think, we follow brands because we like the product, what they sell, but we continue to follow the brands and don't unfollow the brands that bring. Oh, my dog is barking. I'm so sorry. But we continue to follow the brands that are like providing that content and that voice that's like where we feel like not like we're friends necessarily, but that we're gaining something from them. So when it comes to like brands making that decision, if they want to be super friendly or whatever the case is, I think it's important to remember that we know that they're a brand and we're following that brand, and it's okay that you're a brand. We don't need it to be like, you don't need to be a personal profile and talk to me like a personal friend. So there is that balance of like, it's okay that you're a brand, but treat me like a person, but don't treat me like my best friend does.
Definitely get that. So, of course, CEG, who sponsored the show, and the agency that I work with now, we focus a lot on influencer marketing, right? So I think there's that element of a brand trying to be too friendly and maybe trying not to be what, they are meant to be on social, versus tapping influencers and letting them be that best friend to your consumer base, because there is that peer-to-peer connection instead of brand to peer, where it might seem a little cringy or a little bit off base. So what's your take on the role of influencer marketing for, a lot of these brands who want to make an impact. They want to build communities. They want to be your best friend, but maybe aren't really tapping into that side of the industry yet.
Yeah, I think influencer marketing continues to be such a strong marketing tool. I think it's a lot of brands don't know how to do it and they don't do it well. I think, there's the brands that are like, all right, we only want to work with the people who have 1 million followers plus. And sometimes it works and a lot of times it doesn't. And then we have like the complete other side where there's brands that are like, we want to just offer you like a piece of clothing of ours or 10% off or like just some ridiculous offer for a post. And that also doesn't work. So I think, this year, especially, we're going to see a lot more micro influencers making a huge impact. The ones who have high engagement that, their following trusts what they say. And then hopefully brands make that smart decision that it's like, all right, if these few posts are doing well, then continue to work with that person for a while and pay them, for what they're doing for your brand. So yeah, I think, influencer marketing is super smart and brands should actually hire people who are versed in influencer marketing and have that experience because it's really a good way to make a brand money.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head, right? Micro influencers are definitely some of the most valuable, if not the most valuable creators, on social. And, for us here at CEG, we're seeing that, for a lot of our clients, those micro influencers are really, moving the needle for the brands. And, that brings me to my next question as far as, since you've worked with the Kardashians and when you talk about influencer, obviously they're one of the first names that people think of, but what is that dynamic like, right? Knowing that someone has such a large following and so much impact on possibly the, decision making of consumers, but at the same time, since they do have so many followers, that drop off rate is pretty high. That engagement rate is typically a lot lower than someone, let's say, with 5, 10, 15,000 followers that has a really authentic, we keep using that word, right? Because it really matters a lot, but they have a very authentic and engaged, audience. We see it all the time with, the roster that we have here at CEG. So what's your take on that dynamic between mega influencer and your, your micro when it comes to, engagement rates and engaged communities?
Yeah, it's usually, it's usually the case. Like micro influencers are the most important influencers on social media. And, I look at some of the partnerships that the Kardashians do now that are like, you can win all of this stuff. You just have to follow every account from the blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, it's never, we're going to talk about authenticity again, but it really isn't, doesn't come off as an authentic post. They're like, oh, we were just paid a bunch of money, so we're just going to do this. And then we're going to go about our day. Whereas a micro influencer becomes invested in the brand because they're like, okay, I can make money from this. I believe in the product. I believe in what you're doing. And that's usually why they take on brands. And you really want that for your brand. You want an advocate that's like, okay, they trust us, they believe in us, and now their amazing following is going to trust us and buy from us. And it's true with engagement rate. I mean, it's the only thing that brands really ask for anymore. So if you have a high engagement, then you're going to make some money.
Yeah, I mean, to put it straight up, like that's exactly it. And, looking at where the industry is going and some things that, are coming out, with the major media publications around social is brands really do want to start working with influencers long term. That the world of one-offs and, quick hits probably going to start to die out soon, right? And I think that goes back to, the overall topic of hopefully where social media is going, and that's, really building those genuine connections and really building true audiences where you're connected with the brand from, a very emotional level, and it's not just, surface level anymore, and it's not just here's a pretty face or, a great body, and all of a sudden here's my product with it and it's going to sell. It's like people want, those long-term relationships, so they see that, it is authentic and, it is sincere. And I think on the flip side for creators, it's now more than ever is the opportunity to jump on these platforms and showcase your talent or showcase your skill set, and really build your own business. And I think that's one of the greatest things about social right now is you can start your own career out of nowhere and build a business for just being who you are, and leveraging the power of these networks now. So, segueing into the next question, what is your favorite social platform and why?
So, well, I think personally I love Instagram the most. And the reason is I really like all of the tools that it provides. I can post a video, I can post a reel, I can post a photo, I can do a story, I can go live. I can connect via messaging with my following. It really has all of the tools that I love. And I think it's a really good tool for brands, especially if you have a product, because then you can have your shop right there too. And I'll get notified as soon as you post a new product. It's pretty brilliant. When I'm not on Instagram, I'm really loving TikTok. I think it's great. I seriously get stuck on there for hours and I'm like, what am I doing? But it's such good content on there. And that's where I think I find the most inspiration. So personally like to post on Instagram, and I just get inspiration and love TikTok. And I still love Twitter, even though Elon Musk owns it now.
So funny that you bring that up, but I will say, yes, I'm in that same boat of, falling into a TikTok hole. And, for so long where that guy that comes up and says, stop, you've been scrolling too long.
Yes.
You need to take a break. I'm like, dude, calm down. I'm going to get off in 5 minutes. And next thing you know, it's 2 hours later.
Yeah.
But Elon Musk and Twitter, right? I'll be honest, I'm not very in tune with why it's such a big deal. Would love your take on that, because I know it's a hot topic in social.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know why either. I think Elon Musk is very controversial, but I mean, if you listen to his interviews on a few podcasts, I can't remember his name. I think it's Lex something. He has like a couple of interviews with Elon Musk, and he's very smart. He's extremely in tune with everything about his company, what's going on in the world, what's going on outside of our world. And I actually really admire him, and I that might be a hot take. I don't know if people are going to be mad. I don't know if I admire the way that he wants to not pay any taxes and all of that, but we won't get into that. As a businessman, I think he's very smart. And so he bought Twitter for a bunch of money, and, great. Whatever. Like, I'll still use Twitter.
Exactly. I said it on my Twitter the other day. I'm like, you guys aren't going nowhere. Like, stop.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I know people are going to react, and, that's the beauty of Twitter, right? It's freedom of speech for most people. And you should be able to react and have your opinion about it, but I don't think anyone's really going to leave. And, I think at the end of the day, Twitter is going to remain pretty much the same. If there is a drastic change, then of course, yeah, you make your move then, but you never know. I mean, he's, like you said, very smart man, very successful. He has a great brand, and I only see hopefully good things coming to Twitter because he's involved now.
Well, if you think too about like Instagram, as soon as they introduced Reels, people are like, I'm leaving. I can't believe this. This is blasphemy. And then it's like, no, it's not that big of a deal. And no one's leaving.
No one's leaving. So before we jump off, of course, we'd love to have you just drop some knowledge and drop some advice for those that are just starting in social or currently are in social and then maybe at a little bit of a crossroad. What is your advice to the social media manager and professional community out there?
Definitely listen to podcasts like this one and mine, of course, the social media manager. It's so important to get as much knowledge as possible, but then also connecting with each other. That's why I loved so much that you have that Slack group. I think it's so powerful. And, the more that we can learn from each other, the more that we can, go into interviews with more confidence, and we can ask for higher salaries, and we can really change the way that the whole entire world, basically. I was going to say the industry, but it's really like brands, how they see social media professionals. And because we're not just like these young TikTokers that everyone thinks that we are for some reason. I mean, that would be great. I wish that I was just making money on TikTok, but it's important to network with as many other social media managers as possible and create that community. Ultimately, I think it's a fun job. It's very frustrating most of the time, but ultimately it's like, this is a good job to have. And if you want to continue down the road, then it's important to learn as much as possible from each other.
Could not agree more. It's definitely all about connecting. So on that note, where can everyone find you on social media?
I'm Dakota Jean. There's an E at the end of Jean. So that's my handle for everything. And then, of course, the social media manager is on LinkedIn and Instagram. And I am basically everywhere, of course, because that's what I do.
Awesome, Dakota. Well, it was great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for making the time. And we'll speak again soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. See you.